Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. Yes. Today we're back with a baseball video. I know it's been a little bit. I've been focusing on gameplay a lot recently, but with the offseason now started and not a lot happening, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this new list that came out by the MLB trade rumor page, talking about the 25 trade candidates for this year's off season. So let's start with number 25. We got first baseman of the New York Mets, Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is a funny case because he's coming off an absolutely fantastic season. You know, not the best season for him, but still a very, very good season. When you say that probably his worst season so far this year, of his career, I mean, is this year, where he was an all-star, hit 46 home runs, 118 RBIs, and an OPS of 821. It's kind of funny. It's crazy to say that's one of his worst seasons so far. He's an absolute stud, but I don't really see him getting traded. I think the Mets, this is a guy that they should try to keep long-term, so I really don't think he should be traded. But if he were to be traded, I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Boston Red Sox. But that's just like a thing I would really love to see him go there. I think he'd look cool there, but it probably won't happen. Now we're moving on to number 24. We got Luis Robert Jr. Luis Robert coming off an excellent season, maybe even the best season of his career. His first all-star appearance, 857 OPS, a 542 slugging, which is an amazing, 315 on base, and a 264 batting average. Hit 38 home runs, 80 RBIs, and stole 20 bases. Absolutely incredible season for a White Sox team that was pretty much atrocious this year. I really think that he's a guy that they should really want to keep, because you shouldn't try to trade him, and his contract is very team friendly, you know. So there's no reason at all to even contemplate trading him, except if you're going on a huge rebuild, because they don't even have a good farm system. So if you're expecting to rebuild for a long time, maybe trade him, but still, this is the face of your team, so there's no reason for him to be traded. Now moving on to number 23, Christian Vasquez. Last year he didn't play too well. He was really a bench piece, and coming to his 33-year-old season next year, I think he really is going to embrace the role for the rest of his career of being a platoon catcher, not a guy that's going to play every day anymore like he did in the past. He played 102 games, so he still played a fair share, but a 598 OPS, terrible, 65 OPS plus, you know, didn't hit for power, didn't hit for average with a 223 on base. So I really think that whatever team's going to pick him up is really a team that is as I say, just in the need of a platoon guy. So I really think he'd be a good fit for the Diamondbacks. You know, a very good platoon guy to, you know, a very good veteran to like kind of put in the mix with Gabriel Moreno. Really give Gabriel Moreno a guy that he can go talk to, that's been in the league, that's made it too deep in the playoffs before, that's won a World Series ring. So I think this would be a perfect fit for their team, and you won't have to give up much to go get him, and you have a good control, not a high salary. So I think it'd be a pretty good pickup. Next, we have at number 22, Christopher Morel. Christopher Morel coming off a pretty good season. You know, not a full season, only 107 games, but a great season. An OPS plus of 116, 821 OPS, 508 slugging. You know, hit 26 home runs in 107 games. Really good, 70 RBIs. There's a report that came out that they want him to be the first baseman. And honestly, I don't see why you wouldn't want that. He's coming off a season where he wasn't too good defensively, so putting out first wouldn't be a bad move for them. I really do not see him trading him. I don't see them trading him, as he's very young and you have control on him for a while. He's 24 years old. Why would you trade him, you know? So yeah, I don't see him moving. I think he's going to stay with the Cubs. Now at number 21, we have Brendan Donovan, the first of a few players that are from the Cardinals. Brendan Donovan, you know, is coming off a season that was not as good as his first campaign, you know, though he had more pop this year, which I think was the focus that he really wanted. You know, he hit 11 home runs, which is 6 more than the year prior. His OPS did go up because of his slugging going so high, and his average stayed about the same, but his OPS, his on-base percentage, did drop. His OPS altogether was a 124 instead of 115. I think this is a very good player that should be interested by a lot of teams for the fact that he is a utility guy, plays very well everywhere. Cardinals don't really have a space with him because of all the young players that are coming up, and he still has 4 years, as they write here, of contract control. So that's very good, and he won't be eligible for arbitration until next offseason, which is very good. I think he'd be a great pickup for many teams. There should be a lot of teams interested, and I don't think you're gonna have to give up too much. You're gonna have to give something good, but not extraordinary compared to other pieces on this list. So I think he'd be a great fit for the Yankees. The Yankees that always, they move their guys around a lot. They do like doing that. And I think Brendan Donovan would be a perfect fit with that left-hand swing, that short porch in right field. I think he'd really take care of it. And as I said, Connor Falefa last year was their utility guy. Brendan Donovan is way better. So I think this would be a good fit for them. Now moving on to number 20, we have Brendan Drury. Brendan Drury last year was actually pretty good, an 803 OPS. He wasn't as good as his 2022 season, but actually a fairly good season for a guy who was playing on a pretty atrocious team. 125 games he played, hit 26 home runs, so he was on pace to have the most home runs of a career, right? 81 RBIs, 25 walks. He was about to beat that record too. 262 batting average, a 306 OPS, and a 497. Another guy who's a utility guy, can play first, can play second, can play third, can play corner outfield. So it's a very good piece that could be picked up from a few teams. I think he'd be a great fit for the Cubs. Cubs, another team that like to move around their players, so I think he'd be a perfect fit for them. And you have a few years of control, or one more year, I think. At 8.5, that's nothing, and you won't have to give up much. Now we're moving on to an extremely interesting case right now here at number 19, I'm sorry. Alek Manoah. Alek Manoah in his first 2 seasons was an absolutely amazing pitcher. As a Blue Jay fan, loved to watch him pitch, and he was incredible in those 2 seasons. He was kind of cementing himself as a top 10 pitcher in the league, in my opinion. He was really good, and he was super young, so you knew that the prime was still not there. So you was excited to see where he was going to end up. But in this 2020 season, it has been atrocious. In 87.1 innings, he had a 5.87 ERA, but then his FIP is at 6.01, which is absolutely terrible. He gave up 15 home runs in 19 starts. That's atrocious. He got cut, and then there were some problems. So really, I don't know what the Blue Jays are going to do. If they do trade him, I do think his value obviously is at an all-time low, but because of the 2 seasons he had prior, he still has a good value. He still has a few years of control on him. And the Blue Jays, if they can go pick up some good pieces, I really do think it would be a good move. I think that if he gets traded, I think he will be going to the Cardinals. I think he'd be a great fit for the Cardinals. Cardinals really want to reinvent that pitching staff, and I think Manoah would be a perfect fit for that team. Now moving on to number 18, Paul Blackburn. Paul Blackburn, you're going to expect. His ERA is going to be in the 4s, but he's going to be eating innings. He's going to give you about 20 starts. He's more of a 3, 4, 5 pitcher, depending on what team he is. He's not an ace on any team, in my opinion, but I do think he has good stuff that if he goes to a good, smart team that know how to use him, he could actually be even better. This year in 21 games, he had a 4.43 ERA, but his FIP was at 3.96, so that's pretty good to see. His strikeout numbers went up. He gave up less home runs than the year before. He did walk a lot more, which was his problem. He walked 13 more batters this year than last year. And he gave up about the same runs, about the same hits. So really the walk rate is really what, struggled for him this year. You can see his whip at 1.5 compared to 1.2. So you can see that's really where it hurt him. I think that Paul Blackburn, he's projected to make 3.2. So it's not expensive at all. And for a 4th pitcher to 3rd pitcher, it's a pretty good move. I think he will be going to the Cubs, another pickup for the Cubs that could really help them. They're losing a lot of pieces this year. So I think Paul Blackburn could be a good fit there. And I think he could even, reinvent his career with that team. Now we're moving to number 17, Dylan Carlson. Dylan Carlson, who was supposed to be a superstar with this team of the Cardinals. After coming off his first season where he had 780 OPS, the last 2 seasons have been very mediocre for him, 695, and then coming off a season of 651. The power went down, the contact went down, the on base went down. Not a good season at all. Even the stolen bases went down. He wasn't healthy. Lars Newbar really took his spot, but he still has control. I think maybe a change of scenery could really help him, and I think he will be going to the Toronto Blue Jays in the Alek Manoah trade. Now we're moving on to 16, a Mariners starting pitcher, but I don't really want to talk about this one. It's too vague, so no. Now moving on to 15, Randy Arozarena. He's coming off a great season, but I don't think the Rays should trade him. They have no reason to. He's probably the face of their team, and I know he's going to cost much, but sometimes you got to keep players, and he's a player that they should really try to keep. Moving on to 14, Jorge Polanco. Polanco, a good veteran piece, coming off a good season, even though he didn't play as much. But you're not going to get 160 games from him because he won't. He still has a few years remaining on his contract. He's not that expensive. He plays good defense. He hits the ball well. So I do think he will be. I don't think he's going to be traded. I don't think there's a reason to trade him, except if you get a really good package. But I don't think they're going to get the package they want. Now move on to Max Kepler, teammate. I think he will be going to the D-backs. They're going to be losing Gurriel, and if they can put Max Kepler, a better fielder, in my opinion, a better hitter with more power, I think it would be a very good fit for their team. Now we're moving on to Eloy Jimenez. He's not coming off a great season this year, and again, injuries have kind of screwed his career again. He keeps on getting injured every season and not looking 100% healthy. He had an okay season, but not the season you want to see from Eloy Jimenez. He still has a few years of control, so for that reason, I do not see him getting traded yet, but in the next few years, he probably will end up getting traded. Now we're moving to a Now we're moving on to a player who's probably for sure going to be traded in Jonathan India. Jonathan India is coming off a pretty good season, not the Rookie of the Year campaign he had in 2021, but still a pretty good season. You know what you're going to get. He's going to make contact, but he's going to strike out a lot, and he's not going to hit for too much power, though. He's going to get this 15 to 20 home runs every year. Defense is very poor, and he's not in the plans for the future for the Reds with Noel V. Marte, Eli De La Cruz, and Matt McLain. I think he's going to be traded, and I think he's going to be traded to the Blue Jays. He's already kind of been speculated to go to the Blue Jays, and I do think he kind of fits that mold as not the greatest defenseman, but, a good, back of the lineup piece. So I do think he's probably going to end up there in Toronto. Now we're moving on to number 10, Gleyber Torres. Very interesting piece, because he's coming off a great season, really stepping back into what we thought Gleyber Torres was going to be, 800 OPS, 25 home runs, 453 slugging, a very good season for Gleyber Torres. He didn't really become the type of player we expected him to be. But as next year he's going to be 27, his final year before free agency, he's probably going to really blast off. And I think the Yankees should try to capitalize on moving him, because they probably won't end up re-signing him. And I don't think he fits in the mold anymore for that team. For that reason, I think he's going to be traded to the Padres, and for the reason I will be explaining later. Now moving on to two Padres back-to-back. Ha-Seong Kim, absolutely stud defensively, and had a very good season offensively. I think this guy should get traded, and I think all teams that need a second base, that need a shortstop, that need a third baseman should really want to go get this guy. This guy is an absolutely stud defenseman, absolute stud offensively. I think he should be getting traded if a team wants to get better, but I do not think he will get traded. And same thing for Trent Grisham. I just don't expect him to get traded. I don't have too much to say on him. Now moving to number 7, you got Alex Verdugo. Alex Verdugo, a very interesting case. Probably was one of the best players on Boston's team last year. Never going to hit for high power numbers, but 13 is still pretty good for him. Did not get many RBIs, did not steal bases, but his average dipped down, but his slugging went up. His on base stayed about the same. You know what you're gonna get from him: a pretty good defender, and he's gonna play a lot of games. Kind of had some problems in the locker room with him last year, not really showing up, not really pushing himself. But I do think he's gonna be. No, I don't think he's gonna get traded. I think it's more of a piece that you're going to see get traded at the deadline, not during the offseason. Now moving on to number 6, a huge player, Dylan Cease, not coming off the greatest season compared to his top 3 Cy Young finish the year before. But a 4.58 ERA, a 3.72 FIP, so still a big difference. The strikeout numbers were still up, which is you want to see, but and even the walks, he just got hit. He got hit a lot more. It's like people were seeing the ball better off of him. His command wasn't as good, leaving himself in bad counts, getting hit. But I do still think that Dylan Cease has it in there. He was on an absolute failure of a team in the White Sox. So I do think he's going to be traded, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the San Francisco Giants. I think that would complement Logan Webb. Dylan Cease, that 1-2. Kyle Harris is coming. They still have Alex Cobb. I think it'd be an absolutely incredible fit right there. Number 5, we probably have one of the best pitchers, because this is a really top-heavy pitchers class right now in this trade predictions. And Tyler Glasnow, an absolute stud, having a problem with his health, but it's because he throws so many awkward pitches, but still got 21 starts, a 5.53 ERA, but the 2.1 FIP. His WHIP was at 1.08. Giving 7 hits per 9, giving 1 home run, 2.8 walks is incredible, to 12.2 strikeouts. Strikeout to walk rate of 4.38. He's nasty, and in big games, he comes even clutch. He's probably going to get traded almost 100% because knowing the Rays, and they're going to trade him for an absolute stud that's going to, you're going to say, oh, what's this trade? And then he's going to end up being amazing, like every year. I think he'd be a perfect fit, though, for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Los Angeles Dodgers have to make a big move this offseason because of what's happening, because of the year they had last year. And I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. I'm not sure, but I think so. So, yeah. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Dodgers. Now moving on to number 4, Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber, another one of these players that, hasn't had the same season as he had in the past compared to his 2020 season. It's 2021, even though it was a little shortened. But, you're going to get 200 innings from this guy if he stays healthy, 150 to 200. His strikeouts are not great, but his whip is usually solid. He gives up not that many hits, though this year was different. Does not walk many batters. So I think him going to maybe a bigger market team could really help him. He's coming off a pretty good season, not the Shane Bieber-esque that we expect, but pretty good. And as this is his final year till free agency, and he's only 28, he's probably, I do expect him to get traded, but not during the offseason. I think he's more of a piece you're going to see get traded at the deadline, like I said with Alex Verdugo earlier. Now moving on to number 3, we have Willy Adames. Willy Adames, not the greatest defender, but he's all right. You put him out there, you're not too worried, but can hit with power. Wasn't as good last year, really struggled, but we've seen what he could do with the Brewers. As you can see in his 2022 season, that was pretty good. His 2021 run with the Brewers was absolutely amazing. You're going to get 20 to 30 home runs. He's going to strike out a lot. He's going to chase a lot. But he still finds a way to get a high on base, which is really good. He draws walks, he gets long at bats. He's just not always the clutchest guy. I do think he's going to get traded, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Miami Marlins. Marlins need another big spark piece, and I think Willy Adames would be a perfect fit for his squad. Now moving on to the top 2. At number 2, we have Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes, what can I say? Easily a top 10 to 5 pitchers in baseball. As you can see, an ERA of 3.39 this year in 32 starts. You're going to get 30 starts about every year. He doesn't get injured often and doesn't get injured long. About 200 innings a year, Doesn't walk extraordinary amount of hitters, even though last year he was a little higher. His strikeout rate has gone down this year, but he was with Milwaukee. I don't think he was too interested. And also with the fact that he wasn't really getting treated well in Milwaukee. So I think him wanting to leave would really motivate him to play better on whatever team he ends up in. And I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Philadelphia Phillies. I do expect the Phillies to lose Aaron Nola this year. I think Aaron Nola will leave. So for that reason, they're going to have to fill his spot. And I think Corbin Burnes paired with Zach Wheeler would be an absolutely incredible 1-2, maybe the best 1-2 in all of baseball, and I think he'd be a perfect fit. And now we're moving on to Juan Soto, who's at number 1, and I do think Juan Soto will be traded. Juan Soto's coming off a year which was magical. It's back-to-back years where people are like, oh, it hasn't felt as good as his years prior, but still put a 930 OPS, a 519 slugging, a 410 on base. He's never posted an on-base lower than 401 in his entire season. In 779 games in the MLB, he has an on-base of 421, a slugging of 524, and an OPS of 946 with an OPS plus of 157. That is incredible. Last year, 35 home runs. Great. 109 RBIs. Amazing. Stolen bases went up. He ended the season, listen to this, I just want to find it, with 129 walks to 132, no, 129 strikeouts, I mean, to 132 walks. So far in his career, as I said, in 779 games, he has a strikeout of 577 to 640 walks. That is amazing. And as you can see, his average right now in 162 games is 120 strikeouts to 133 walk with an OPS of 946. It's amazing. 33 home runs, 100 RBIs. This guy is going to get the absolute bag when he's a free agent next year, or if he signs an extension this offseason. I do think that it has to be the Yankees with a Gleyber Torres trade. He's just a perfect fit for the Yankees, as I don't want to see it because Juan Soto is like my favorite player in baseball, and I'm a Blue Jay fan, so seeing Juan Soto come play against us 16 times a year, I don't want to see. But you cannot say that he does not fit this team perfect. Just imagine Juan Soto with that short porch and right. He pushes the ball better than I've seen anybody ever do at his age. He's incredible, and whatever you have to give up for him, you should give up, because this guy's a future Hall of Famer. He's only 25 years old. He's going into his 25-year-old season. Are you kidding me? And he's going to be a free agent. He's going to get the bag. If you pick him up, as the Yankees should, you need to re-sign him straight away. Give him the money he wants. He wants 12 years, 13 years, 15 years at $500 million. Sign the check. Here, you want this? Sign the check. Sign the contract. Absolutely interesting. You know, the free agent class this year isn't amazing. So yeah, the free agent class this year isn't amazing, but it is very interesting with a lot of pieces that look like they're going to be traded. A lot of teams gunning to try to win here. So I really do think that when this offseason over, I do still think it's going to be known as one of the most active, because of there's going to be more trades because there are less pieces. If you like this video, leave a like. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a comment. Is there somebody I missed? Is there somebody that you think is going to get traded to a spot that I didn't think he's going to get traded to? Do you give me your reason? Give me what you think. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. I should have a video coming out with my top 50 free agent prediction. So I'll see you all then. Peace.